Your thoughts are doing real labor right now, whether you clocked in or not. Every assumption you hold, every quiet expectation you carry into the day, is pressing against the fabric of your life like a hand on wet clay. You've been told to work hard with your body and your hours. The work that actually shapes your world happens somewhere you've barely been trained to look. The old Hermetic teaching opens with a line that sounds abstract until it grabs you by the collar. The all is mind. The universe is a mental thing. Reality, at its root, is thought made dense. If that's true, then you're not a worker standing outside the machine of life, pulling levers. You're a thought happening inside a much larger thinking. And the strangest part of that idea is what it asks of you. Because if everything is mental, then your discipline isn't measured by sweat anymore. It's measured by what you can hold steady in your own head for longer than a moment. Picture the universe the way the Hermeticists did. One infinite mind, imagining itself into stars and oceans and the chair you're sitting in. Not a craftsman hammering matter from the outside, a dreamer, dreaming with such concentration that the dream hardens into stone. Everything you can touch is a thought that refused to flicker. The mountain is an idea held without interruption for 1 billion years. That's the work ethic of the cosmos, sustained attention that never breaks. And here's what that makes you. A smaller mind dreaming inside the larger one. Your thoughts aren't separate from the cosmic thought, they're eddies in the same current. Which means every time you think, you're adding a brushstroke to a painting that's still wet. So why does your life so rarely match what you say you want? Look at how you actually think for 1 hour. You set an intention, then undercut it 9 times before lunch. You want abundance, then rehearse the rent. You want to be the kind of person who finishes things, then narrate your own quitting before you've begun. The cosmic mind holds the mountain for an age. You can't hold a single belief through a traffic jam. That gap is the whole problem. And it's also the whole opportunity. The Hermetic principle says, the universe creates by sustained mental focus. You create the same way, on a smaller scale, with the same mechanism. The difference between you and a manifested mountain is consistency. A thought you think once is a seed dropped on concrete. A thought you think 10,000 times with feeling in the same direction is a seed planted in soil and watered every single morning. This is where work ethic stops being about the body and reveals what it always was. The grind you respect in an athlete or a builder has a hidden twin. There's a grind of the mind that almost nobody trains, the discipline of choosing one assumption about yourself and refusing to abandon it when the evidence hasn't caught up yet. That refusal is brutal. Let's be honest about it. When you decide to assume you're capable, the world doesn't applaud. It tests. The bills still come. The doubt still whispers in your own voice at 3 a.m. And this is exactly where most people quit the mental work, because they expected the universe to confirm the thought before they'd committed to thinking it. They want the harvest before the labor, but a mind that built galaxies through unbroken concentration will ask more of you than a belief you held for an afternoon. So how do you actually do this work? Where's the practice, not the poetry? It starts with what the old teachers called a mental diet. For one day, you guard the door of your own attention like it's the only job you have. A fearful thought arrives, you notice it, and instead of feeding it a feast of your imagination, you starve it. You put on something low and steady, a familiar song pulled down to 432 Hz through iTunes, link in the description, and you let that hum hold the room while you replace the fear with the assumption you've chosen. By return, the way you'd guide a child back to a task, gently, the 100th time, without rage. This sounds simple. Try it for a single afternoon and you'll discover it's the hardest labor you've ever attempted. Your mind has momentum built over decades. Every groove of worry has been deepened by repetition. You're carving against the current of every thought you've practiced since childhood. That's the work. That's the actual work ethic the Hermetic teaching demands. Not vision boards, not wishing. The sustained, unglamorous discipline of governing what you dwell on, hour after hour, while the old self screams that you're being naive. There's a moment most people recognize without ever naming it. You find an old journal or a message you sent years ago, and the person who wrote it feels like a stranger wearing your name. That stranger was a thought form too. A self you held in place long enough to become real, until you quietly started holding a different one. You've already proven you can do this. You just did it by accident, drifting on whatever assumptions the years handed you. The Hermetic claim is that the same process runs the cosmos. The universe is a thought form held by a mind that never wavers, and you are a smaller version of that exact act running on a fraction of the focus. Tighten the focus, and the rules don't change. Only the speed does. A drifting thought becomes a directed one. The same hand on the same clay, suddenly awake to what it's doing. And the universe is built to make this hard on purpose. Consider the principle of rhythm, another piece of the same teaching. Everything swings. The tide comes in, the tide goes out, your mood lifts, then it crashes. Most people ride that pendulum like a leaf on water, thinking whatever the swing tells them to think. High day, big dreams. Low day, total surrender. The cosmic mind holds its intention through every season. The winter doesn't make it forget the spring. Your power is learning to do the same. To hold your chosen assumption at the bottom of the swing, when you feel nothing, when belief feels like a lie you're telling a corpse, that's the moment that counts. Anybody can believe on a good day. The mental worker believes on the floor. This is the part the motivational clips leave out. They show you the breakthrough, the moment the dream becomes real, and they skip the months of holding a thought that the mirror keeps contradicting. The cosmic mind held the mountain through ice ages and droughts, through every reason the rock might have had to give up being a mountain. Your assumption will face the same trial in miniature. The doubt isn't a sign you chose wrong, it's the friction that proves the work is actually load-bearing. Cheap thoughts cost nothing to keep. The ones that build your life will charge you for every hour you hold them. There's a fair objection here, and it deserves a real answer. Someone will say, this is just dressing up positive thinking in robes. Tell yourself nice things and call it cosmic law. If that were all this was, the objection would land. But positive thinking floats on the surface, a pleasant affirmation laid over a foundation of doubt. What the Hermetic teaching describes goes deeper. It's about shifting the state you think from, living in the assumption until it stops being a sentence you repeat and becomes the ground you stand on. The atmosphere your other thoughts breathe, that's a reconstruction of the self, brick by mental brick. And it's genuinely hard labor. Now bring it back to the big picture. If the all is mind, and your mind is part of it, then your thinking is participating in creation, whether you participate consciously or not. You're always voting. The fearful person isn't failing to manifest. They're manifesting fear with tremendous skill and consistency, having practiced it for years. The cruelty of the law is also its mercy. It's always on. It never takes a day off. The same engine that built your current cage will build the door, if you'll only feed it different instructions long enough to matter. This reframes everything you thought you knew about effort. You've been pouring your work ethic into the visible world, the hours and the hustle, while leaving the mental factory running on autopilot, churning out the same old self on a loop. The factory was never idle, it was just unsupervised. What would change if you treated your inner life with the seriousness you bring to a deadline? Picture guarding your assumptions the way a craftsman guards his tools. Returning to your chosen state after every interruption, not once, but as a practice you renew all day. Sitting in the feeling of the wish already fulfilled before sleep, when the door between minds swings widest, this is the labor that the visible work was always meant to serve. The outer hustle without the inner government is a man rowing hard with the anchor still down. And the proof, when it comes, arrives sideways. The mountain doesn't announce that it's being built. It just one day is. You'll catch yourself reacting differently to a setback that used to flatten you. You'll notice an opportunity your old eyes would have walked past. The world will start handing you reflections of the thought you've been quietly insisting on. Slowly, then all at once, the way a dream hardens into stone. So here's the question that turns the teaching into a task. The same mind that holds the stars through unbroken attention is thinking through you right now. This second, what are you handing it to build? You've spent your whole life believing the universe was something that happened to you, a weather you endured. It was always closer than that. It was always the inside of your own held attention, made visible. The mountain took 1 billion years of unbroken thought. You don't have 1 billion years, but you have the next hour, and the one after that, and the slow, stubborn refusal to think yourself back into the cage you already know by heart. Start there. The clay is still wet, and your hand is already on it.